But most people, you know, I mean, I'm telling you all this, and some people will say, oh, well, what a nasty piece of work she was. But I'm not. I wasn't a nasty piece of work. But they do. You know, I wouldn't tell any people that I'm with them. They think they'd have me thrown out.
So they're inward.
Yes. What?
So
3 times married?
Thrown out.
Twice divorced?
That's right. A little more coffee, Mama.
Always the scarlet woman, you see. You get sympathy when the man has strayed off and you've divorced him. That's a little different.
That's right.
In those days it was. It isn't today. It doesn't care.
A touch more?
Please, darling, yes. So, you know, these are intimate things that I've never told anyone else, as far as I know, because I've never thought it necessary.
Right.
You know.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not necessary. It's just fun, Mum.
It is. Well, when, you know, in the archives, when all these great-grandchildren come along and they read them and say, who the hell was this grandmother?
Very
That's true, absolutely true. Yeah. What was she? You know, it's funny how people's lives all divide off, you know. You talk about your great-grandmother. Do you know a great deal about your great-grandmother's life? No, of course not. I don't know. I don't ever know. Remembering my great-grandmother, and I'm sure I have about my great-grandmother.
I went to my great-grandfather's funeral. No, my great-grandmother's.
Well, there you are. But I'll be the great-grandmother of this Ian that's coming up.
Yeah.
Ralphie that's coming up, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, don't know who's she? Who's she? You know. Oh, what are those, you know.
Crazy old ladies.
Yeah. So you have to be careful about things. Depends what the morals are then, dear. If they've gone round to the old Quaker days and they really need to get that way, it comes, what goes around comes around.
Yes.
There'll be Quakers where it'd be wrong to show an ankle, never mind. Can you imagine living in this?
Well, one of my favorite all-time stories is when you came over the seas after the war to meet Dad, and you got lost in New York because Cook's was closed on a Sunday, and you were told to go to Cook's, Thomas Cook's travel agent, and it was shut. And there you were in New York, sort of a stranger first time in North America. Oh, that's right. You had no way of coming forward, and you had.
I'll tell you, because this is really quite funny. I went to Cook's, you see, as soon as I knew I was coming out to Canada, and you definitely had to let them, you had to keep, because I was waiting for a permit to land in Canada. Right. They wouldn't let you come. I mean, you know, it was all right being a war bride. I wasn't really a war bride, because it was 2 years afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
See, Daddy Ross Grandpa Ross came out in 45, and I didn't come out till 47. Right. So it wasn't one of those things that we decided, decided overnight. We had a long time to think about it, and to be sure. And then it took a whole year to get a divorce, because there were so many divorces after the war that they couldn't cope with them.
You were alone for a year. You were separated for a year.
Definitely.
Whole year.
Not with Dudley.
No.
With Dudley, no, because Dudley was only back for 2 days before we realised that he wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
3 days. But we stayed together because of the children.
Right.
You see? And till we decided what was going to be done. So this was how it was, you see. They would spend some time with me, but they were in school, remember? Mm-hmm. They were in Cromwell House, but they came home the only reason I put them into Cromwell House, which was a boarding school, when they were 5 and 7, is because they got more good things en masse in a school than they got that you could get. If I wanted orange juice for the children and things like that, I would have to queue up.
Right.
And sometimes they'd run out. Do you know what I mean? Whereas at school they were allotted.
Yeah.
Every child was allotted, which in a way wasn't fair, I suppose, but you could get it. But it went time, and you may not get it, but you went to school, and it was good for them in Cromwell House. They needed the discipline, because one mother all the time. And I wanted a little more free time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anybody helping me, and I had the house. And I worked we did a lot of work, you know. Even though I had the 2 children. I mean, I sorted nuts and bolts for aircraft in a factory so many hours a week.
Oh.
And then I worked in the Silver Lady canteen, serving the soldiers.
Right.
You see, we had sausage and mash and coffees and tea and all that sort of thing, and made it sort of homely with them.
And you knitted with the Queen.
And I knitted with the Queen.
Balaclavas for the night fighters.
And left-handed gloves. I always got the right one wrong. Got the thumb on the really. could have happened to anyone. It was whilst the real Eisenhower was running for president.
Right.
So you see, there was hardly any available accommodation, you see. So when I had to go, I went when it got to be a nuisance, I used to go 2 or 3 times a week to see if there was any news about my permit. Before, Daddy had worked like a dog. He had a bank account, he had a house, he had everything. Roddy Jenkins said they would, and Jean said they would sponsor me. I could live with them until I got married. They said I could only live for they only give me a permit for 3 months, and I had to be married, or they'd send me back.
Right.
You see, so I thought, oh well, I'll soon make my mind up in 3 months.
Yeah.
But I didn't get 3 months. Daddy had the marriage license and the ring. We were married the next morning. Should have been married that day, but he forgot to sign a paper.
Oh.
And when we got to I got in at 1 o'clock. He took me to the house. I met, what was his name? MacDonald, Mary and John MacDonald. He was in the army with Dad. He was a captain too. So when they got married, they lived in the house with Daddy, because all the rest of the family had gone from 17.
Oh, I see.
It was only Gordon, and he was away at the university, but then he stayed with Aunt Flo when he came.
Right.
So Daddy said, hurry up and get out here. But at any rate, what was I going to say now? So he had got the house, and we got to get married straight away. Got the divorce papers. I had my divorce papers, but I was a little late getting it, because the lawyer that Dudley had, we called him Droopy Draws because he was so slow. It being that nothing was going through the courts then, except this stacked a piece of paper, you know.
Yeah.
We went through, and he was, oh, it'll take time. But your father did it all from the same. We had to get a judge, you had to swear the paper, sign the paper, send it back, pay for the whole thing, darling.
Yeah. So,
anyway, that was that. So it took quite a time. So I was always in Cook's, in Trafalgar Square, asking if there's any news.
Yeah.
They got the permit. Please call me Bill. Bill, if when we get news, we'll let you know. Don't keep coming in. I said, well, I'm done. I'm up west. I might as well pop in. So anyway, eventually, I did get the permit. But I had to be married within 3 months.
right.
And Fluff and George said they would sponsor, but then it came to the fact that Daddy had bothered them so much that they said, right, well, we can't have something, we've got to be married within the 3 months, so that was it. So I go back to Cook's and they say, right, I got my bag packed and I'd sent off a trunk with clothes and everything, and they said, so Daddy said, I think it would be quicker for you to get on a plane than it would be to get on a boat, because there were a lot of war wives going, you see. And he said, look into flying. What do you feel about flying the Atlantic? And I thought, well, I don't mind. I didn't really like it, because that's why I didn't like flying afterwards.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was...
And a little DC-3.
No, well, it wasn't. Yes, it's
small, fairly
but
small.
It was 13 hours too, you know.
Oh, God.
Gander.
Yeah.
Just a gander. So then, to cut a long story, I got my permit, I got all my papers, I got everything, and in 2 days they got me a plane. And I was worried because they just put the plane after taking it off for about a month, because a big film star, a singer, had been killed in a plane crash, and they'd had 2 crashes on this, and they'd taken them off, and then they put them on again, and I was on one of them. Oh, I thought I'll never make it to the other side, but anyway, the only opportunity I had, because it suddenly came up. So off I went. Sidney and Peggy and Betty and Wynne and a whole lot of people saw me off. And I left it wasn't Heathrow then, it was the London airport. But it was in London. It's where
And that would have been in the fall of 47?
March.
The summer. Oh, March.
March.
About a year before I was born.
Exactly. March the 21st.
Of 47. Oh,
I
that's
left
spring.
I left on the 19th and I was married on the 21st, which was the Monday, or something like that. So at any rate, so they gave me, and they said, don't worry about it, we've got everything made, you're booked through to Calgary. But when you get to New York, you have to put up in New York, and then you have to go through the immigration again. But we've got it all settled. Pick up your ticket there, we'll all be ready to pick up. So off I go.